Rain, Rain, Day 4, Chapters 11 through 13. When Rain went to school. On school day number 33, Uncle Weldon pulls his black Chevrolet Montana into our driveway at 8:16 a.m. He sees Rain and me sitting on the porch, and he waves to us by sticking his left hand out the window. Then he sticks his head out the window. "Rose," he calls, "bring Rain. I don't have to go into work today. Rain can spend the day with me." This is not part of the routine. I stand on the porch for a moment and look at Rain. Rain, Rain. "Come on," my uncle calls. "Rain and I will have fun together, and she won't be lonely." Okay. I lock the door behind me since my father has already left for the garage, and I lead Rain to the truck. Rain sits between Uncle Weldon and me while we ride to Hatford Elementary. "Is build and build on your homonyms list?" asks Uncle Weldon as we drive past the coffee cup on Route 28. "I thought of that one last night." "Yes," I say. "I really like that pair." Rain puts one of her paws in my lap, and I stroke her toes. "What are you and Rain going to do today?" "She can run around the yard while I stack firewood. Then maybe we'll go for a walk." Okay. Even though this is not the routine, I'm glad Rain will have a nice time with Uncle Weldon. We reach School Lane, and my uncle says, "I hope you have a good day, Rose. Rain and I will see you at 2:42. He turns into the drop-off lane and reaches across my lap to open the door. "Bye," I say. Before I hop out, Uncle Weldon and I touch our hearts with our crossed fingers. I run to Mrs. Liebler, who is waiting for me at the front door. "Good morning, Rose," she says. We hurry along side by side through the corridors to Mrs. Kutchel's room. I have already hung up my sweater and am taking my homework out of my backpack when Flo says, "Hey, a dog." Flo is pointing to the doorway, so I turn around and look at the doorway. There's Rain, standing under the list of class rules. "Rain," I exclaim, "what are you doing here?" "Is that your dog?" asks Sander. Rain sees me and trots across the room to my desk. "Yes," I say. "Is that the dog from your composition?" asks Josh Bartell. "Yes," I say. "What's she doing here?" Flo wants to know. I shake my head. "I guess she followed me. Rain must have jumped out of the truck before Uncle Weldon could close the door." "But how did she know where you were?" "You'd been here for like 2 minutes before she found our room," points out a girl named Parvani. "She followed me with her nose," I tell her. I sit on the floor and put my arms around Rain. She licks my forehead, and then she sits down too. "She's so cute," cries Flo. She joins us on the floor. "Can I pat her?" "Yes." Flo runs her hand down Rain's back, and Rain makes her smiling face. "How old is she?" asks Josh. He sits down with us, which makes 3 humans and 1 dog sitting on the floor of Mrs. Kuschel's room. "I'm not sure. My father found her one night in the rain. We don't know how old she was then." "So she's a rescue dog?" asks Sander. Before I can answer him, Parvani says, "How did she follow you with her nose?" "She has a very sharp sense of smell. All dogs do. But I think Rain is special." Everyone is crowded around us now, even Mrs. Liebler and Mrs. Kutchel. 5 people are patting Rain at once. This is when I hear Uncle Weldon say, "Excuse me?" And then, "Oh, thank goodness. Rain, there you are." My uncle is at the door of our classroom. "She found me," I say. "Did she ever? She wanted to follow you after you got out of the truck. I held her back, but when I finally let go of her to close the door, she jumped out." Uncle Weldon turns to Mrs. Kutchel. "Sorry about this," he says. "My fault. I was the one who wanted to bring Rain along this morning." Mrs. Kutchel is smiling. "No harm done." "Rain has a smart nose," says Flo, and she strokes Rain's nose. "You're so lucky, Rose," says Parvani. Mrs. Kutchel lets everyone visit with Rain for 3.5 more minutes before she says, "All right, class, it's time to get to work. Say goodbye to Rain." Uncle Weldon has a leash in his pocket, and he clips it to Rain's collar before he leads her out into the hall. "Goodbye, Rain. Goodbye, Rain," call my classmates. In the cafeteria that day, my lunchroom buddies and I have a lot to talk about. Chapter 12. Some more about homonyms. Here are some more good homonyms. Grown, grown, find, wrapped, wrapped, patience, patience. One thing about the last pair of homophones is that both interesting and boring is that you can use the ns pattern to find other homonyms. For instance, independence, independence, presence, presence, innocence, innocence. It's interesting because the pattern makes homonyms seem even more worthwhile, but it's boring because the pattern also makes finding new homonym pairs too easy. But I still like all homonyms. On school day number 34, Josh Bartell says to me, Rose, how come you go to the trouble of thinking of homonyms by yourself? You know you can find hundreds of them by looking at Jontas Joyner's list of homonyms. All you have to do is Google homonyms and you'll get to the list. It goes on forever. I think about this. There are two problems with what Josh has said. One, my father and I didn't have a computer before when Josh suggested that I keep my list on a computer, and we still don't have one. Two, another of my homonym rules is that I have to think of the homonyms myself, what is the point of looking at someone else's list and copying it? My list is original. But what I say to Josh as I stare into his eyes is, I'm glad you're interested in homonyms. Chapter 13. At the end of the day. The routine for after school is that Uncle Weldon picks me up at 2:42 p.m. and drops me off at my house between 2:58 and 3:01. Rain always greets me by jumping up and down when I open the door, licking my hands and face, and sometimes barking. Usually after that, we sit on the porch for a while. But if it's rainy or chilly, then we do not sit on the porch. At the end of school day number 35, we do not sit on the porch. It's foggy and cool, so we take a walk that lasts only 6.5 minutes. Rain pulls at her leash when I try to turn her around, and I know she would like a longer walk, but it's too damp and muddy for that. I'm going to look through the box, I say as Rain reluctantly follows me back to our yard. On a shelf in the coat closet is a box, a hat box. The top and bottom are held together by a white satin braid. The braid is fraying, which leads me to believe that the box and the braid are old. Also, the box used to be blue, but over the years the blue has faded to a lighter and lighter shade. Now it's pale gray. Inside the box are things that belonged to my mother before she left. My father doesn't care if I look through the things, so I look through them approximately every 4 months, which is 3 times a year. 4 times 3 equals 12. I drag a chair to the closet, reach up high for the box, and lift it down carefully. I set it on the kitchen table. Before I open the box, I study the outside to see if I can find any clues to my mother, but there's nothing. The box always looks the same, except that the color gets lighter and the braid gets fuzzier. I wish my mother had written something on the box, something like, these things are important to me, or gifts for Rose, or even just treasures, but there are no words or clues of any sort. I don't even know if the box belonged to my mother or if it's just some box my father found for storing her things. My father won't talk about the box or its contents anymore. I slide the braid aside, remove the top of the box, and look in at the familiar items. One by one, I take them out. I set them on the table in a row from left to right. I always start with a necklace that has a silver bird's nest hanging from it. Inside the nest are 3 pearls that are fake and are supposed to be bird's eggs. What does the necklace say about my mother? Maybe that she's a person who likes birds, or bird's nests, or bird's eggs. Next, I take out the seashell that looks like a tan cone and is called an auger. My mother must like augers too. She likes birds, bird's nests, bird's eggs, and augers. The third item I take out is a photo of a black cat. Written on the back of the photo is Midnight. I don't remember having a cat or any pet before my father brought Rain home. I study the cat some more. My mother likes birds, bird's nests, bird's eggs, augers, photos, and black cats named Midnight. After the photo, I examine 2 pins. The first is a little silver R for Rose. I wonder why my mother didn't take that with her. Maybe she didn't want to be reminded of me. After all, she left my father and me, so why would she want to think about us? The second pin is the kind called a hat pin. I know these things about the pins because when I was very small, sometimes my father would look through the box with me and tell me about the items in it. He won't do that now, but he used to. And that is how I know that the R stands for Rose and that the second pin is a hat pin. It looks like a very big needle, and attached to the end where the head of a pin should be is a tiny clock. The clock doesn't work. The hands are just painted on. They point to 7:15. Once I asked my father if there was any reason the clock reads 7:15. He said no. I wonder if my mother likes homonyms. I wonder if she likes prime numbers or rules or words. I wonder if she left because I like those things. The last item in the hat box are a nickel with a buffalo on it, a tiny square of newspaper announcing that Elizabeth Parsons wed Wesley Howard in the First Presbyterian Church in Hartford. The hospital bracelet I wore when I was born, and a scarf with a picture of a rose on it. I wish I knew more about my mother. I do know what she looks like. There are 2 pictures of her on the table by the couch, but I wish I knew something else besides the fact that she likes birds, birds' nests, birds' eggs, augurs, photos, black cats named Midnight, pins, the later R, clocks, 7:15, nickels, buffaloes, her wedding announcement, my hospital bracelet, scarves, and roses. I look at the clock on the kitchen wall. I have 3 worksheets for homework tonight. It's time to start them and then start dinner. I put my mother's things back into the box in reverse order, starting with the scarf and ending with the necklace, and then I put the box back on the closet shelf. It's later, when I'm adding Rain's My Pet dry food to her My Pet wet food, that I turn on the radio and hear the weather forecaster say, approaching storm, Hurricane Susan is expected to make landfall in 3 days and will be of epic proportions, a superstorm that could become the storm of the century.